Did
No
you
problem.
claim a spot in this mock draft? I don't see a.
Yeah, I think I'm in the middle somewhere. Roto surgeon probably.
No,
If
you're
I'm,
not.
my
You're
name
not
shows
showing
up.
up.
There's no way. I literally signed up to take a spot.
Here, I'll send it to you in the chat
Okay.
again. There we go. All right, now I can tell the Discord
Oh,
people.
how many people have? Oh, okay. You know what? I'll take three. Whatever.
There you go. All right, cool.
Okay,
So
am I in now?
yes,
I'm in now.
you're in now. All right, let me tell the people in the
Perfect.
Discord.
Mock drafts.
All right, sleeper.
Oh, perfect. Okay, I got a message. Said hi. Okay, I don't think I need anything in front of me, like numbers or anything.
Nah, it's pretty simple. Like
Yeah, we're.
the thought behind this is like the draft is more a way to guide the discussion than anything else.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
that's when you said like is there anything fancy about it? Be like, nah, this is just to talk players, and then the draft is just there to facilitate that. So
Of course.
yeah, it looks like people are filling into the mock draft. So why don't we go ahead? We'll do our little introduction while people are falling in. So welcome in to everybody
Happy
on the
to.
Twitch stream. Yeah, so this is Jeff Crisco. I'm your normal host here for Mock Draft Monday. We're here with Kev. Kev is at RotoSurgeon on Twitter. Kev, why don't you tell the people a little bit about yourself? What got you into fantasy sports?
Hey Jeff, thanks for having me on. I don't know, like fantasy sports is a weird niche to have. Honestly, this is not exactly like a normal hobby. I'd say when you talk to people, like, oh, what do you do? I'm like, oh, I talk about fantasy sports for like, I don't want to say a living, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But a buddy in college literally came in my room. He's like, "You want to join a fantasy basketball league?" I was like, "What the hell is that?" And from there, 8, 9 years ago, I want to say, I think it was my early sophomore year. From then on, I just fell in love with something that I considered. I figured I'd love this anyway. I played Madden, fantasy drafts my whole life. I've done NBA Live, all of that. Like on from video games on, I've collected sports cards my whole life. So like kind of accumulating stats and like kind of figuring all this stuff out has always been an interest of mine. But having the outlet of fantasy sports, very much so, put it all together. And since then, I made kind of a career out of it. On Twitter, you see me; I'm very active. I just
Mm-hmm.
love talking about this stuff. It's my hobby. This is what I love to do. This is what I entertain myself with throughout the day on Fangraphs, on Pro
Oh,
Football Reference, on whatever it may be. Just studying and researching and finding out cool stuff because this is what I like to do. It's just numbers are really cool to me, and sports numbers specifically because of sport. Like my last thing about this, I know I'm droning on, but just seeing these amazing athletic feats and kind of putting them in a relative sense to other athletes and seeing what crazy things one person is doing compared to another, like what Vlad Jr. is doing right now.
oh man.
He's 100% better. He's 100% better than league average. He's like two MLB players standing on top of each other. Like that's awesome to me, and that's why I love him so much. But in general, I just really like sports, and the fact that I can, put use to all these arbitrary numbers is really cool.
Yeah, and I saw your tweet yesterday about Vladito, and yeah, so this will be a fancy baseball podcast just for today.
Yeah, please. I
Yeah.
mean, hey, it's fantasy baseball season. Like, I'm so conflicted with baseball, basketball. Like, I mean, basketball just ended, but
Mm-hmm.
when this intersection occurs with all of these sports, like, I don't know what to talk about. I don't know, like, what I should be driving my discourse with, I guess, online. So,
Yeah. Well,
it gets really. This is a weird time of year.
yeah. I mean, it's because baseball so much happens every day, and then with football, you're like, well, I could do that. I could talk about that tomorrow, But then
Mhm.
if you wait to talk about the baseball, but yeah, I love looking at the. I'm gonna start following the WRC plus that you mentioned, but I'm just having a lot of fun tracking Jacob Degrom's ERA plus right now. It's
Oh
like
yeah.
it was like 700 something the other day. It was just out of control, so yeah, thanks for being on. I promise the people we won't talk about fantasy baseball. Everybody stay in. It's
No.
fantasy football chat this time. um, Fake Plastic Tees talking about fantasy basketball just ended. He said, Fake Plastic Tea, one of the guys from our Discord said, we're in the middle of the conference finals. What does he mean basketball just ended?
I
So
mean, fantasy basketball is technically over. Like, if you want to
yeah,
all things considered, like that ended a month and a half ago or something. And
yeah.
I guess there's DFS, but that's I'm not that much of a degenerate. Like, I keep I like to set like demarcation lines. Like, okay, this is when it's appropriate to do all because I do everything: basketball, baseball, football. I don't really do hockey, so I guess it's not everything, but you have to have your limits with all these things,
Yeah.
or else it's overwhelming, honestly.
Yeah, and especially with fantasy baseball and DFS, it's like you could submit 100 lineups like every single day. You gotta push back on it a little bit to keep your sanity. So
Yeah, absolutely. I like to consider myself, like deranged because I do all of this, but at the same time, it's, I'm not too far gone because there are people, like you said, with hundreds of lineups a day that are fault. Like that's so much anxiety
yeah,
for me. Like I get so stressed out looking at like three lineups that have like different scoring and whatnot. And I'm just like, this is like ruin. Like I'll have a bad day and it'll be ruined. Imagine if I was losing like thousands of dollars a day doing DVS. Obviously, if I was good at it, I'd be making money, but I can't do that. I'm not built for that. I'm sure you're not either. I don't see you putting your lineups out there, so it's
no,
just not for us.
no. I was listening to the Fantasy Pros podcast, and Mike Tagliere said, "Look, I hate to lose more than I like to win, so DFS is just setting myself up to be mad all the time." And that's kind of the attitude I have, because it's like if you win, not all of your lineups are going to win, but I'm like, why can't all of my lineups win?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how I am. So yeah, let's the Discord chat, or I'm sorry, the Twitch chat is talking fantasy DFS now for playoffs. So I guess that's what they'll be talking about. So we will go ahead and get this party started. So what we got going on here is this is our first sleeper mock draft. We have been on Yahoo, but I got tired of drafting 2 wide receivers because that's not how you should be drafting in 2021. And we're easing into more different leagues than what we've had in the past in this mock draft. Next week next week, Evan's going to be filling in on Monday because I'll be driving back from my in-laws. But the week after that, we'll start getting into like 2 QB, maybe some IDP. We'll start to build this thing out. So I appreciate everybody that's in here. Looks like we got 10 people in the mock draft, which is awesome because we've been mocking with guys on Yahoo and we've had a lot less than this. Evan, it looks like you are in the Discord chat, or in the Twitch chat. I keep doing that, but not in the mock draft if you want to hop in there. Evan's one of the guys who runs the site with me, Kev, so I can go ahead and tell him what to do. I can tell him what to do. So I can be like, hey, get in there. So
boss him around.
That's right,
please.
just a little bit. Yeah, I spent the morning editing his stuff, so he owes me a little work back. Zachy NFL says you're cool, and he's glad he started following you. So yeah, Roto Surgeon, you can see him right here, bottom of the screen. He's a great follow for, like we talked about, all fantasy sports, not hockey or golf, but the
please God, no,
the good ones. He's a follow for the good ones. So all right, let's go ahead. Let's get this draft started. And Kev, I know this is your first one, but basically we just let the draft go. And then as it goes through, we kind of talk about our picks, what we're thinking.
Okay.
So I'm going first, and I'm going first because I'm just going to take Christian McCaffrey. It's a 1 quarterback league. It's a no-brainer, but that way I can clear up my thoughts. So at 3, Kev, what are you thinking here? Who ideally would you be taking at 3?
I mean, ideally, obviously Christian McCaffrey's gone. So my order, my big 3 is CMC, Derrick Henry, and then Jonathan Taylor. This is in all formats. I don't care. It's, as much as you can do format dependent, like, oh yeah, Dalvin Cook gets a lot more receptions than Derrick Henry, but you look at Derrick Henry and the way he plays, and I think the body of work that he's put out there over the past few years, you can trust his durability. That's a massive thing for me. I like to have, the best availability. The best ability is availability, as they say. And Dalvin Cook has proven throughout the years to not be the most durable. He had his leg injury early on in his career. Then that resulted in like some soreness or something that caused him to miss his second season. And then he had a shoulder injury. I believe that was 2 years ago now, and it was compounded injuries. There were 2 different ones, and then last year had an ankle, which isn't a big deal, but I feel like, once you start, ripping the paper apart a little bit, it becomes a lot easier to tear as a whole. So Dalvin Cook is draftable, but not before someone like Derrick Henry, who's proven to be a top 5 back at peak, and he's still in his peak. He's still like 25, 26. He's the same age around as Dalvin Cook, and he could see a lot more targets this year with the middle of the field opening up with Julio Jones in play. Mm-hmm. So I think it is my pick now, and they took Saquon. I'm not taking Saquon. Another situation with his knee injury last year, not just because he tore his knee, but because of the residual damage that was done around the knee that caused his surgery to be delayed a month. So now you don't have a surgery that you have a surgery that occurred a month later. His rehabilitation is pushed back a month later. So now does that spill into the season? Was he supposed to be out longer than expected? Those are all questions you have to ask. And full speed football compared to practice, compared to cutting in a video, is not the same. So
Yeah.
I'd rather just I'm hedging my bets with guys like Taylor, young and been healthy throughout his Wisconsin career, he's had one season. We know he could carry the load. We've seen him touch the ball 300 to 400 times yearly in Wisconsin, and last year nearly 300 times. So he's a stellar prospect. So that's why he'd be my 3. But Derrick Henry, just because he's done it before, is my 2.
Yeah, he's been a monster, over 400 touches the last 2 years. So, there's Ken Shamrock says in the chat that there was a rumor that Saquon was rehabbing the knee prior to surgery to improve the healing process, but that's still. I'm with you though, Kev. On the I'm not particularly interested in watching guys juke a bunch of trash cans and traffic cones and all that stuff. That's different than a real NFL game with guys trying to tackle you. So while we're talking about it, we're talking running backs first. One of the things I like to ask people is how are you feeling about this zero RB? I guess controversy or fire that flies around fantasy Twitter.
I mean, zero RB, it's like if you're in a position to pull it, yeah, sure. Mm-hmm. If best player available for some reason is Tyreek Hill or whomever it may be, then I guess. But it's not a strategy I go into any draft trying to pull. I'd rather just have my RB set. The only reason I'd ever do zero RB is if I'm in a league with trades where I could buy low on a running back after a few weeks if he struggles, or if I know it's a league where I could pick up a running back, a shallower league where running backs are going to be active on the wire. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, I want my early RBs. I'm going to take 3 or 4 early. I might take 4 in a row in drafts and then not worry about it later because you're set at 2 positions the 2 RB spots that you need. Wide receiver, I consider myself very capable of finding late wide receiver value. Tight ends, the same. I'm not good at finding late running back value. So it all depends on how you go about a draft and how you go about a waiver wire, what you're good at essentially. So for me, I'm better at finding wide receivers and tight ends and quarterbacks, whereas running backs, I'd rather just get the workhorses. We know they're going to get the work early on because these running backs you're waiting on, you might not even get them week 9, week 10, week 11, right?
Yeah, and you made a perfect point there in the middle that I want to remind people of is when people tell you their strategy, know what you're good at, know what you're good at finding, know what you're good at evaluating. Like last week we were drafting with Will Rivera, and he said, we were talking about tight ends. He's like, you know what, I don't really like the streaming game at tight end. And I'm like, that's fine. If you don't want to do that, I feel pretty good about streaming tight end. So, I'm more likely to wait on tight end. But this dogmatic approach to drafting strategy, it kills me because you're going to get lit value go by. And that's the problem with these ones. If you end up going zero RB, fine. That's what happens. So let's take a look at the draft board really quick before it comes back to you. So there's the big 5. It seems like everybody's taking these 5 plus Jonathan Taylor as in the first 6 picks. I'm actually kind of shocked Tyreek Hill and Devontae Adams went before Jonathan Taylor. Then Chubbs, Jones, Zeke Elliott, Kelsey as a first round pick. How do you feel about that one?
I wouldn't do it, but I get it. I guess he's very good. It's just with Kelsey aging tight. I mean, he's not aging, but he's early 30s tight end. It's like, he's not a typical tight end. He's a Hall of Famer for sure. Of course, no one's saying he's not, but there is that tipping point that occurs that it just out of nowhere. We're seeing Zach Ertz. He fell off. Gronk at a certain point. Injuries took away from Gronk, but that's kind of the thing. The older you get, the more prone you are to injury. And I don't want to say they are injury prone, but the older you are, the more your body shuts down. That's just how humans work. So in that sense, I'd prefer not to take a tight end in the first round. I don't want him in the second round unless it's in mid to late, because I'd rather just take a elite player in their prime. I know he's produced the past however many years. He's been great. I'd rather just not do it. I don't want Travis Kelce on my team.
Okay. No, that's fair enough. And that's, again, just weighing what you worry about. And the age thing we had last week, had a whole argument about Travis Kelce. About like he's got to fall off eventually, and when might it happen? But you're up next, actually. So you got it looks like Antonio Gibson, Najee Harris just went off the board. You're taking CEH. Okay, so
Yeah.
what is there a running back that had gone? Like, would you take Gibson over CEH if he was there? What does CEH land for you?
Uh, CH, honestly, I would take CH over like Aaron Jones. I take him over Eckler. I take him over the wide receivers here. I'm very high on CH this year relative to I hated him last year because rookie running back. He still he had to put on a few pounds. He looked a little small last year, but obviously rookie running backs could put on weight. It's not that crazy.
Yeah,
He's not the fastest guy. It's not like he's gonna lose too many too many ticks off his 40. I'm not even worried about that. That's not how he plays. He's not a straight line runner. He's look with guys like this, especially in an like Andy Reid made Patrick Mahomes wait a whole year before entering. I mean, he played week 17. They have a process and they trust it. They didn't really bring in anyone. Jerick McKinnon's dust. You
yeah,
saw him all of last year on your 49ers. This dude stinks now. Like, honest, like he was great. His athleticism was amazing. He wasn't utilized properly with the Minnesota Vikings, but after all those injuries, he was done. Damian Williams is gone. Darrell Williams doesn't scare me whatsoever. Maybe they add someone. Maybe someone gets cut and they add him, but that's like a secondary play. CH is the workhorse back in the Chiefs, even if he's only getting 60 to 70% of the snaps. I see it as you want one of the best offenses running backs. That's a natural thought, right?
yeah.
He's capable. He's not below average in any sense. He's a plus receiver. So he's going to get play in all aspects, and it's just kind of like trusting the process of sorts. I don't think he's the most talented running back on the board. Gibson's probably better. J.K. Dobbins is better, but the way they're going to use CEH is more valuable for fantasy, at least.
Okay, perfect. So after you picked, it looked like Metcalf, Swift, Michael Thomas went off the board. I'm trying. I was trying to get another running back here. DeAndre Swift's kind of the last of the guys that I would want in a half PPR. Maybe Dobbins, and then it kind of falls off a little bit. I'm not a big Miles Sanders believer, just because he's been inconsistent. Like, I don't know what he is yet, and after that, there's kind of a drop off. So. Then Michael Thomas. I think Michael Thomas is getting way too underdrafted. I said I'm going to smash him in the third round every round that I can, and unfortunately that's 3-1. So now you got Dobbins. You already talked about Dobbins. That's a great pick. So you're starting Henry, CEH, Dobbins. So you're going that running back heavy approach.
Yeah.
So where do you pivot? Like, are you willing to take a fourth running back, or do you got to start looking somewhere else in the next turn?
Okay, look, where I am right now, I'm probably not going to get a running back that I'd be interested in much. Like, what's going to be available there? Like Kareem Hunt, Travis Etienne. Like, I like Etienne a lot, but I'm only taking him in best ball because I don't want to pick and choose when to start Etienne.
Yeah.
All three of these guys I just picked are every week starters. I'm not going to take them out of my lineup at any point. In best ball, my strategy is different, where I just want best player. If I think Etienne's the best player, I'm going to take Etienne. I don't want him in a league where I'm going to have to set my lineup. Maybe he has a slow month to start because they want to, get the juice out of J-Rob and whatnot. But yeah, in a league like this, half PPR too, J.K. Dobbins is much more valuable in half PPR than full. So you got to remember that.
Yep.
CH Henry, obviously, like, it doesn't really matter. They're going to be workhorse backs regardless. So that comes into play. That's why I mean, maybe in a full PPR draft, I take Justin Jefferson over J.K. Dobbins or Allen Robinson over J.K. Dobbins. But half PPR, I'm taking the running back because my running back 1, my running back 2, and my flex, as we have 3 spots we can fill running backs in. I want all running backs in those positions.
Yeah, and there's the saying in fantasy football, which is, what's the correct number of running backs to have on a roster? And it's probably one more than you think you need, because there's such a volatile position in terms of it. Like they get, I mean, they're the guys banging into the big boys up front so much, so they get little nicks and bruises there. Where you get things like when we look back, we're like, oh, such and such player missed 3 games, and it's like, he's more resilient than this other player who was on the injury report all week and was, limited to like 40% of snaps because he was banged up, but he played. So it's like, it comes off a little bit differently. So, let's keep looking at these picks. So we got Allen, Demont, Sanders, Mahomes, first quarterback off the board, middle of round 3. Feels okay. I wouldn't do it, but feels okay. How are you feeling about this first quarterback off the board? When would you take your first one off the board?
Oh man, okay, this is tough here. It really depends on league format. How many yards per point? How many points is a touchdown? If a passing touchdown is like 6 points, I'm more open to it because, Mahomes, as we've seen, could throw 50 touchdowns. He could throw 60 if he felt like it, if
Yeah.
the offense was in need. Like, so if it's 6 points for fantasy touchdown, passing touchdown, rushing are always six. And then it's like 5 points per 100 passing yards or whatever. If it's like, souped up, yeah, I don't care. But if it's in the more conservative 4 point per touchdown, 0.25 points per or whatever, or 100 yards is 4 points.
Mm-hmm.
I'm less likely to go quarterback early. The first quarterback I really want is Lamar because I could get him in the fifth round. Obviously, I don't care to give out like my strategy here because it's a mock draft.
Yeah, exactly.
I wouldn't pull Mahomes there. We're looking. Darren Waller went right after him. I take Waller, even though I'm not that good of a fan. Kittle. I'd rather have Kittle, McLaurin, A-Rob, Josh Jacobs.
Oh,
Any of those guys, honestly. That's look. All of these guys, honestly, Godwin, Cooper, I'd rather have than Mahomes. Like these are wide receiver ones essentially, or like potential wide receiver ones.
These
I'd
are every week starters for you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt.
No, absolutely. No, don't worry. I got distracted by something. But
okay,
you're right. Look, like you only have one quarterback spot, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like I get it. Mahomes, it's lock and load Mahomes every week, but you can get something comparable, especially with how much more rushing we're getting out of quarterbacks. And Mahomes, he might not rush as much with his lower body issues that have come about in the past year or so with his, what was it, both ankles or one ankle?
I think it was one ankle, and then his kneecap was the problem on the other leg.
No,
but yeah,
crazy.
Dislocated kneecap is one of the weirdest things to think about because I don't know. I have a thing about knees, so all right.
You have a thing with knees? What does that mean?
I have an arthritic knee, so I always, when people get knee injuries, I feel their pain for them. So and I got my knees taken out a lot playing basketball in high school. So I feel bad for knee injuries. So yeah, we're back to you. Let's see.
I'm in a brutal spot here, honestly. Do I take one of the three elite Dallas receivers, or do I take the wide receiver one for the Giants? That's where things kind of get funky. And I think CeeDee Lamb was the wide receiver one last year. He was clear cut coming into the season. Obviously, Justin Jefferson usurped him.
Yeah,
I'd still rather have Lamb, and I do think take great players on great offenses. I think you take Lamb here.
Okay. And then
because Golladay, as much as I like him, I think they have similar target shares, honestly, because the Dallas Cowboys are going to throw more than the Giants. And there's a chance Gallup could get traded if the season goes down the drain. So, and CeeDee Lamb is locked in. He's there for the long haul, essentially, with how he's on a 5-year contract, basically.
Yeah. So Golladay went after you, and I kind of agree. Lamb and Golladay are probably looking at similar, just like raw target numbers, but Lamb is in a better offense. His target quality is going to be better, and it's less likely that he's going to have to sell out for the ball and then get no yak because he had to dive for the football and then gets touched when he's down. And that's the Mike Evans factor that he dealt with for ages. So let's see here. Oh, I got, let's see. I'm trying to figure out what I want to do here. I forgot that I have 2 picks, so I can just double tap this. Cooper Kupp. I think Cooper Kupp is going to be fantastic this year. I would have preferred Robert Woods, but he went a few picks beforehand. I love Robert Woods. And, I'm waiting on both quarterback. You know what? I'm going to do it. I'm going to take Lamar. Haha. So
nice. You took him. Hey, you took him from me. I was going to take him there.
Did I lose you?
Yeah, you cut off for a second, but okay. Back to my pick though.
Okay.
This is tough now. I think with the way the draft's gone and how I have 3 wide receivers, this is brutal.
Yeah. While you're looking to back up your point, Zachy in the chat says Golladay is a career 20% target share player. He's not going to dominate the way people are expecting. And I somewhat agree insofar as there's a lot of targets there, like not in terms of a lot of passing opportunity, but there's a lot of guys who could receive the football. And I think that Golladay is going to be on top of it. But at the same time, Saquon is going to demand a lot of targets, and the flotsam and jetsam, as I like to say it there, the miscellaneous guys, they're higher quality than on a lot of teams. But
Yeah.
that's not why I would bump a guy down the board so much. But if I'm making the difference between Lamb and Galladay, that the Cowboys offense is very narrow in its target share. It's like very predictable too. It's like somewhere between 100 and 120.
Consolidated.
Yeah, consolidated. Between 100 and 120 going to 3 different guys. Boom, boom, boom. And then somebody takes an extra 20 on top. That's how it's going to go. Galladay's going to get some targets, and then Saquon's going to get some targets, and then the rest of that's going to be a mess. So I almost don't want to touch the Giants offense for that. So you took Mark Andrews instead. So Mark Andrews over Hawkinson. Pitt's not off the board. So let's talk about Kyle Pitts, since you took Mark Andrews, and that's kind of like it's going to spark this tight end discussion. So everybody has a different opinion on Kyle Pitts. There's no two that are the same. So where would you draft Kyle Pitts? What round, let's say? It's a 12-teamer.
I mean, I would have drafted him in this round if he was available, but Mark Andrews wasn't. So I think that's fair, right? I think I just prefer Mark Andrews, who's finished as the tight end for the last 2 years in points per game. So it's just, I take the known product in an offense that has been the best in the NFL, or one of the best, rather than the Atlanta Falcons offense, which just lost Julio Jones. And I get it. Pitts is great. I love Pitts. I would have drafted him. Honestly, actually, I prefer Pitts in like a full PPR draft. I think he's going to get a lot of like inefficient targets from like Matt Ryan in this offense, because they don't really have a run game. I don't mind Mike Davis. I don't think he's that good. Their O-line's whatever. Matt Ryan's getting older. Calvin Ridley's great, but like, is that enough to divert attention from Pitts, who's going to see a lot of attention in the middle of the field? So I'd rather just buy in the Baltimore offense with Brown taking the top off of Rashad Bateman kind of eating the middle of the field, and now Andrews, who's been a consistent threat in the red zone and like the intermediate to deep field. So, I know what he's done. He's finished as the tight end too. So I prefer Mark Andrews to Kyle Pitts as well. I prefer, the guys who have done it before to Kyle Pitts, just because I know he's special and I know he's going to do really well. But at the same time, like, we were saying not to the same level, but we were calling TJ Hawkinson. We were like, oh my God, Matt Patricia got his Gronk. Like, we were going insane about TJ Hawkinson, not to this level. And I'm not saying that Hawkinson and Pitts are similar in terms of skill set, but it's like people are going crazy. I saw he went in the 3rd round. Kyle Pitts went in the 3rd round of a 12-team non-tight end premium draft. So it's just like, people are just like, well, he has to hit his ceiling to justify this. I'm just going to assume he's going to hit his ceiling. Yeah, it's rough, because you have to look at Kyle Pitts, and I don't know why he's like 92nd on here. That's very interesting. But,
it's sleeper ADP is a mess all the time. it's part of the thing. Yeah.
I don't know what to make of. I don't know what to make of that. I'm sorry, but I think I'm gonna take my boy Baby Chark over here.
Baby Chark. So
okay, I had to. I love Baby Chark, but sorry. Let me finish just on Kyle Pitts. Just. He's a rookie. It's so hard. He's 21 years old. He's coming into the NFL. There is that, the acclimation period. He could have a rough first half. It's just, I'd rather bank on the guy, like you said, who's done it before. Why? It's not like Andrews. You're not like hoping on him. He's not Chris Herndon, like we talked about earlier. He's someone who's done it. Like, he's been a tight end, and he's in a great offense with a great quarterback. It's, what more can you ask? It's the same thing with CeeDee Lamb. It's like, sure, he can, maybe Galladay gets more targets, even though you said about the target share, or someone in the chat said it's not that high, but better offense, similar-ish player, might as well take the better offense, right?
Yeah, that's a perfect tiebreaker there. So I snagged Cortland Sutton. I think that as a wide receiver 3, I'm very happy with that. Now I'm just trying to shore up. I think I shouldn't have taken Lamar Jackson, because I am not liking a lot of these running back options here.
Yeah. See, that's why you start 3 running backs, and you're just not worried about your running backs at all, right?
Yeah. So now I'm getting into like, should I draft Michael Carter range, which is that's not where you want to be in the 7th round.
No, not at all.
Oh boy. I guess
this is how people end up with Zach Moss and end up hating themselves at the end of the year. So, draft those running backs, people. You won't regret it.
I go in Ronald Jones, and then I'm going to hate myself immediately.
Okay.
Javonte.
Yeah,
Javonte. Yeah, I should have taken
You
Javonte.
messed up.
I
I would have taken Javonte over Rojo, and I love
I
Rojo,
I
so that's
it's the ADP killed me. He wasn't. He's oh man, I missed Javante. Oh well. So I can just take this from Evan. I'll just steal his pick. Just give him Rojo and give me Javante. All right, Juju Smith
just
Schuster.
quick. Mm-hmm.
So I was gonna say you've leaned into three-headed wide receiver committees so far with Jacksonville, Dallas, and Pittsburgh. So talk to me about Juju. This Juju Claypool Deontay thing is it's another thing that's kind of roiling the fantasy Twitter space.
Yeah, and I'm kind of the one roiling it.
Yes, you're part of it. Yeah.
I'm very much so. I'm a massive. I mean, okay, look, like you mentioned, like I said with Rojo, as I'm a fan, I went to USC at the time of Sam Darnold, Rojo, Juju, all of them. So that was kind of my heyday of sorts. So I have a little, I don't want to say familiarity, but I'm or biased necessarily, but I am familiar with them. Let's just say it at that. And I know he's better than whatever he did last year. This last season was an outlier completely. They were using him as like an H back in their offense, and they've said there's like been substantive news that they're going to change his role from whatever it was last year to be more conducive to not just a deep threat, but just someone who's used in more ways on the field than like some flanker. So you look at Juju in this offense. He's targeted nearly as much as Deontay, more than Chase. He averaged just about the same amount of points per game. You brought it up. It's like even no matter the format, no matter how much you take out, him and Deontay scored just about as much. It's like within a point per game, but you're getting Juju at a 2-round, 3-round discount. You're getting Chase Claypool, the rookie who broke out in the first half and then busted in the second half. He's a round earlier than Juju. It makes no sense. The offense is going to be pass heavy. There's, again, three-headed monster. I don't care about a three-headed monster if the pass volume is enough to mitigate all of that. If there's going to be 600 targets available to the offense, who cares how many monsters there are? If someone's going to get 100, like there are 3 guys here who are going to get 100 to 150 targets, somewhere in that range. Juju, I feel like will be closer to the 130. Deontay maybe 140, and then Claypool, 120, 130 maybe. Then what? Pat Freiermuth? Like I don't care about
Eric Ebron.
Ebron might not even be on the team. Like, I don't even know what's going on there, but I'm not worried about it. Juju is close enough. Like maybe he doesn't outperform them, but if I'm getting him at a cheaper price with just a slight underperformance, I'm not worried.
Yeah, and at a certain point you go for, these middle rounds of the draft is really where I think you start to soak up what you perceive as value. Like you perceive Juju as like undervalued guys before you start taking swings on your upside guys later on. Cause like, if your upside guys miss, you need a fallback option. I think Juju he has guaranteed volume. Like, everybody's like we went back and forth about it. That's, about the Deontay Juju thing. It's like, everybody's going crazy for Deontay, but he and Juju weren't that different last year. It's sometimes people, they draft it what they hope things will be, and before it's like, this is more what's likely to happen. And I think that's what's driving a lot of this Kyle Pitts thing. Jumping him up, and same with Deontay, and there's some other guys too.
Yeah, no, I have no, like, I like the individual receivers on this team. That's not an issue. I don't like Ben. I think he's due for a slight bounce back because 2 years removed from Tommy John, you're usually better than when you were the first year. Yeah. Because you look at pitchers. I mean, you don't have a massive sample of quarterbacks who've had Tommy John. It's very minimal. There's no real concept of how they perform relative to before or after or 2 years after, 3 years, et cetera, et cetera. So our best frame of reference is starting pitchers in the MLB. Starting pitchers in the MLB in their first year back from Tommy John usually struggle mightily. They don't look like themselves. They have issues with command. 2 years later, 2 years removed from the surgery, as Ben is now coming into the season, they're usually much more comfortable with their arm. They have an idea of their strengths, their weaknesses. Maybe they return to some modicum of form. I don't think Ben's going to be Ben of old. He's like 39 years old now. He's fat. It doesn't matter. But I think he'll be better than last year, and I think the offense as a whole will benefit. But not to say there isn't a chance his arm falls off. He gets hurt again. He's always had these lower body injuries. Juju's the most tradable guy on that team. If you look at Deontay, he's stuck. Chase, rookie last year, he's not going anywhere. James Washington, you have to want James Washington to trade for James Washington. But Juju has the history. He's on a 1 year, $8 million deal. That'll be 1 year, $4 million, or half a year, $4 million, whatever, by the middle of the season. If he gets traded to whatever team. It's probably going to be a playoff contender that's trading for him. He'll be in a better situation than Deontay and Chase as well if Ben were to fall off. So I think there's a lot of outlets for Juju to succeed this year.
Yeah, and I think so. It's like one of those situations where, like, if the Steelers break bad, if they break wrong, and Ben can't throw it downfield, which I agree with you, the Tommy John thing. I was thinking about that the other night. Then who's gonna? But if things go bad, who's gonna benefit? Juju, Deontay, these short area guys, you know. So it's like even if things go bad for the Steelers, that's still volume for Deontay. And you, like you mentioned, you know, he's gonna get traded if things go really bad. He is the most tradable asset. But it's funny you bring up Tommy John because the other day I was actually thinking about that, about how you know, pitchers aren't as good their first year back, and I was kind of, when I was writing about the Steelers, I almost went into it because I was writing about each team. That series is kind of finished, but I almost went into it, but I was like, this is really inviting a lot of people to like argue with me about things that I'm not, you know, I'm not James Andrews, you know, I'm not really in there,
No.
but I'm glad somebody else who's got this like baseball football mix. Cause I used to write about baseball. I worst decision in my life was saying, no, thank you. I'm done here to Fantasy Pros about baseball 6 years ago. But yeah, it's these mixed things. You get these different looks at it where you're like, yeah, Tommy John in baseball. It's like the first year back, you're like, yeah, you know, there might be some issues with, like you said, control. Second year back, you're closer to being that same pitcher. And I don't think the velocity is going to go back up, but usually because you've been rehabbing so much and been taking it easy, your velocity bounces back. But yeah, this like baseball, football, like kind of mix. It's like, if you just have both in your head, you can just bring up new things that people in the football space haven't really thought of. So you went Hollywood Brown here. So let me see my guys, and then we'll talk about both your picks when it bounces back. So if I can pull this up. So let's see. See, I'll do this. I have absolutely no problem with James Conner here in the 8th round, but I do need another wide receiver here as well. Luckily, I'm double tapping, and I will go my first real big upside swing here, and I'll go Mike Williams.
Ooh, I love that. Yeah, love that pick.
I'm a big Mike Williams fan. It really feels like everybody's like, you know, like either I'm completely out on Mike Williams or I still believe in Mike Williams. You know, yeah. So why don't you talk about Mike Williams a little bit then? Since I'm smacking my mic all over the place. Okay.
Your mic.
My mic. This is Williams. Mike Williams. So yeah, okay, Mike Williams. Let's talk about that.
Okay, let's look at him. He has about 175 targets over the past 2 seasons, and he's played 30 games out of 32. So, you know, health's been his bugaboo of sorts, right? Mm-hmm. That's been the big talking point with Mike Williams. Where can he stay healthy? Is he going to be the Mike Williams of old? And he's been fantastic. You look at his yards per target throughout his career. It's not like, you know, he has a low catch rate because he has a high ADOT. He led the league in yards per reception 2 years ago. And last year was a little bit of a down year with a new quarterback. But I think Mike Williams is extremely talented. He's on a contract year, I believe. He was literally he was so touted, and then he missed a lot of that first year, and we kind of forgot that he had 10 touchdowns. He's had like a weird career where he either has the yards or he has the touchdowns. He hasn't had that mix of both yet. And when that comes, he's going to hit.
Yeah.
He doesn't like, this is the kind of league that he's perfect for, this and best ball. PPR, it could get a little skewed, but because, you know, he's never going to be a massive receptions guy because they say he might be the X, but that's going to be Keenan Allen no matter what. I'm gonna take. Oh, who would I take? Aaron Rodgers. Oh, that was a.
You got autoed. There. Hold on. I'm gonna pause the draft real quick.
Yeah, sorry. I was talking.
No, it's okay. It's okay. So I'm gonna pause the draft, and then I'm going to.
Yeah, sorry, guys.
Remove this pick. All right. So I don't know how much time it gives you on the clock, but I'm gonna restart the draft. But do you know?
I know who I want.
You know who you want. Okay, so I'll go ahead. I'll restart the draft.
Yeah.
All right, so there we go.
I'm taking Aaron Rodgers' teammate, A.J. Dillon.
There you go. Wrong Packer.
Wrong Packer, yeah. Okay, look, let me just get into A.J. Dillon real quick. The thing with A.J. Dillon is a lot of people had this misconception because kind of people are touting him as like LaFleur has him. He's the new Derrick Henry or something like that. That's not the case, but he is talented. He's very fast for his size. Obviously, the size is the thing. It's like, oh, he's just too big. No, he's very, like, he has insane speed. Like, he's literally like a poor man's Fournette. Imagine Leonard Fournette if Leonard Fournette was healthy. He has receiving chops. He looked incredible down the stretch last year in that Tennessee game, specifically in the snow. Aaron Jones' history of injuries going back to UTEP. I don't, not that I don't like, I love Aaron Jones, don't get me wrong, but I feel like this is a good year to hedge against him and buy into AJ Dillon because he has the workhorse body. He can catch passes. Jamal Williams is no longer there. They don't really have too many other options outside of these two. I think they drafted a running back this year really late, but I'm not too worried about that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm in on AJ Dillon, especially in these kinds of half PPR leagues. That's where you want him. PPR, I probably wouldn't draft him.
Yeah. So the guy they drafted this late this year was Kylan Hill, who everybody was in on. That was the guy that everybody was freaking out about that was falling too far in the draft because they had him as like their running back 6. But anyways, back to Mike Williams really quick. I just want to put a bow on this. You mentioned 10 touchdowns his sophomore year, 1,000 yards the year after that, and then he kind of fell off a little bit last year. But it was a rookie quarterback, team in transition. I think this could be the year to put it all together. And I think if he gets, he does have it in him to do. On a lesser target volume, so a baby version of it. This was kind of like early career Mike Evans. Like his first year he had 12 touchdowns, his second year he had 1,000 yards, and then eventually he started putting it together, and he started to put in monster years. And he was, as he started, a 50-50 guy, bailing out a young quarterback in Jameis, and it's a lot of the setup is very similar. And I just love this Mike Williams in the 9th round pick. I'm very excited for this. So let's see what the chat has to say. Let's see. Fake Plastic T is shocked I didn't take Mike Gesicki. I'm not taking Mike Gesicki this year, buddy. I told you I was the Mike Gesicki guy, but now I'm out on Gesicki. At least where he goes. I might be a Trout man. I don't know. I think I might have gone too far waiting for tight end. This is a problem.
That's why I got Andrews locked up. I'm good. My weekly tight end is there.
Yeah.
And I'll figure out who I want later. But I'm usually not for drafting tight ends, but I think Andrews' value is just way too good to pass right now.
Yeah, in the 5th round, there's like I'm not a big like drafting quarterback early guy, but if Patrick Mahomes was staring at me in the 4th, then I would kind of like at the end I would kind of have to. That's kind of what like Lamar Jackson did for me as well, because I knew he wasn't coming back to me. So let's see. Now I'm just worried about what my tight end's going to be. That's all my mental energy.
Yeah, I have a pick queued up here, and I really want him, but I don't know if I'm going to get him. I think he's staring me. He's staring me at the face.
All right, let's see.
He's staring me in the face.
Let's see what happens. Fudgeham's timed out.
Ooh. Damn you, Fudgeham's.
Oh,
no, that's not the guy.
Oh, it wasn't Gus Bus. Okay.
No, it was Michael Gallup. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think I messed up. I should have taken Gallup where I took Dillon. So that's on me, guys. I flipped that. Gallup should have gone in the 9th round. I didn't even know he was available. He's usually gone by this pick. So yeah, Gallup. I absolutely want that Dallas wide receiver core. If it's Amari and Gallup, or if it's CD and Gallup, you're probably wanting to get one of CD or Amari. But yeah, I want as many of those Dallas receivers as possible because we saw what they did at full health with Dak last year.
Yeah, it's one of those where you can't take what they did in the first 4 games and just stat it out, but you really want to, because it was like 6,700 passing yards from Dak. But
that's absurd. That's absurd.
Yeah, but you can see like the heights that this offense can touch, and that's not the heights that a lot of offenses around this league can touch. So you have taken, except for Hollywood Brown, all guys in 3 wide receiver kind of not log jams like you said. It's there's enough volume for them, but they're not like slam dunk the best guy to have, which is a good way to get value out, because if those guys hit, you're good to go. My God, I don't want any of these guys. Can I just skip to another round? Just let all these
quarterback. Oh yeah.
Yeah, I took Lamar.
That's the thing. There's a lot of good late quarterbacks here.
Yeah.
I'm looking at names right here, and I'm just like, I'd take any of these guys.
Yeah.
Like, look at Stafford, Cousins, Wentz, Lawrence, Jones, even Fields. I like Fields a lot. I think he starts sooner than, some of that media hype is kind of, or like it's like anti-hype, I guess. But, they're saying it's going to be Andy Dalton. I don't think it's Andy Dalton for more than like 2 games, honestly.
Yeah, not very long.
They'll get sick of him real quick.
Not very long for Andy.
They've had Glennon. They've had Trubisky. They've had all their awful quarterbacks. Now, I mean, Dalton's not awful. I just don't think he's the guy, obviously.
No. And I had a whole discussion about this with Mike, who hosts the podcast with me, where I'm like, yeah, I'm sure he'll start a couple games. I'm not arguing that point, but I don't think it's very smart. Like, I think that it's a stupid thing for them to be doing to give Andy Dalton that time, because he has like a month head start on Fields, and that's it. And Fields is legendarily intelligent is what everybody talks about, is how smart he is at picking up playbooks and all that stuff. So, oh man, I'll go Janu. I just Janu. I mean, it's kind of a punt here in round 11, but he's the last guy that I feel really good about until Troutman, and I can get Troutman later. I'm not a Irv Smith guy. Evan Engram, again, like I was mentioning with Kenny Galladay, I'm not leaning into that offense if I can. Gronk, I think, is headed in the wrong direction. Then we're getting into, ugh. I could have made fantasy Twitter happy, gone Cole Kmet, but I'm happier with Janu here. So Alexander Madison, then Trevor Lawrence. So you waited till round 11 to get your quarterback. So let's talk about Trevor Lawrence then. So you're confident in Trevor Lawrence being your quarterback one.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Let's look at the offense. Honestly, DJ Chark, Marvin Jones. That's your boy. You love Marvin Jones. I know that.
Oh, yeah.
And then Laviska Shenault, who everybody loves. ETN, massive, explosive threat. J-Rob to do the dirty work in between the tackles. They have a very good set of skill players. Offensive line, mediocre. But the thing with Trevor Lawrence is he could run. He could arguably be as good, if not a better. He could be the best runner in this class, not named Trey Lance. I think that's very much so possible. I like Fields a lot. I love Fields. I think Fields has a similar arm talent, but Lawrence, his size and speed, look, he had 18 touchdowns in 3 years at Clemson, and he last 2 years, 9 touchdowns, 8 touchdowns, about 700, nearly 800 yards on the ground, 4 yards per rush. He's very good on the ground. Like you look at him running, he's like galloping out there, and he's going to run with they're going to run the RPOs with ETN, with J-Rob, whomever it may be. It's going to be a very Ohio State-centric offense in that sense from Urban Meyer's perspective. They brought Bevel in, who ran that stuff with Seattle with Russell Wilson and whatnot. So I think you can lock in Trevor Lawrence for something like 400, 500 rushing yards to provide a floor. And I think he's going to get a lot of rushing touchdowns too. He's going to have a lot of keepers, some sneaks, because he's that big body that can get the ball in like that. So, there's that floor is set even if they don't have an extremely high passing volume. And even so, they're going to have a lot of deep targets to Chark and Marvin Jones. So those big plays are going to come. They can grind out yards, and then, the points will be there with Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah, so one of the guys in the chat, Ken Shamrock, brought up, so Brady after Trevor Lawrence. Is that the legs? Would be my guess, yeah.
Yeah, it has to be. It's just that floor is so high for Trevor Lawrence with his rushing ability. Burrow, Burrow was a decent rusher. He's not a rusher like Lawrence, but he had the high pass volume to provide rookie quarterback value. I believe in Lawrence much more. He's a much better prospect than Burrow, and I think he has better weapons. I don't want to say better weapons, but at least more explosive right now than Burrow last year.
Yeah. So yeah, it was just it's good faith in the kid, in the rookie, having him be your starting quarterback. And fake plastic tea in the chat has offered to go over tight ends with me sometime, which will be fun because I believe in we call everything between tight end 6 and tight end 20 the blob, because it's you can make cases for or against all of them, and it makes sense. So they're all kind of blobbing together. But Andrews and Hawkinson and arguably Pitts are the last guys that aren't in the blob. So, So, okay. So where are you looking next? So it looks like you've got all your positions shored up. So we're just going depth here. And let's talk about where you're going next. And then how do you build your bench is, I guess, another way to look at it. Cause we've been talking a lot about bench building.
I mean, bench is upside. Is that not how we're supposed to do it? I'm very much so a believer in getting best player available after you have every position filled. So look, best player available here. I'm going through, and it's Mecole Hardman. And we got a lot of hype on Mecole Hardman today. And he hasn't been a bad pro. He has some drops. He's had some, his expectations were way too high because people were like, oh, next Tyreek Hill. That's not true. He was never going to be that. That's not his game. He's a deep threat. He can work a little bit of yak, but he's primarily just a very explosive player who you give the ball to. You get the ball in his hands and he can go. He can run a straight line, run really fast. He can run around defenses, but he's not like Tyreek Hill where he's going to break tackles and do all that fun stuff as a runner and whatnot. So, look at his career yards per target. They're very high. He's, you might say his catch rate's a little low, but who cares? This is someone who's going to be on the field. They but they got rid of Sammy Watkins. They didn't really bring anyone in. I don't believe in Byron Pringle. I'm not a DeMarcus Robinson guy at all. This offense is gonna be Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce, CEH. Obviously, Mahomes is the guy giving it to them all, but then Mecole Hardman right under. He's gonna get a lot of open opportunities. He did all of this stuff before 20. He has 1,098 yards before he's turned 23. He's I think it was his birthday, not a couple of months ago, but he's still very young. It's not like he was an older prospect coming out, so you can give that leeway. 10.7 yards per target, 13.1 as a rookie. Like, this dude's pretty good. I'm not gonna lie, and I do think a breakout of some sorts is in the midst.
Yeah, so I'm gonna go double tap wide receivers here because I kind of feel okay at running back, and I want to make sure I get Gabe Davis. And where did the other gentleman go? Amon-Ra St. Brown. Amon-Ra St. Brown is a pure target upside thing here, because in round 13, if he's no good, I'll ditch him. If they are like, okay, we're going to Brashad Perriman 11 targets a game or 9 targets a game or whatever, I'm like, okay, the volume's not going to be here for Amon-Ra St. Brown. But what I like with like my second to last or almost my last pick for upside is a guy whose situation will resolve somewhat quickly. Like, his is pure target volume. If the target volume's not there in the first couple of weeks, he's gone. I'm not going to sit around and wait for Amon-Ra St. Brown to build up to what he should be. And then Gabe Davis, I'm not worried about Emmanuel Sanders. I think was it you I was talking to? Somebody I was talking to about, I think Emmanuel Sanders kind of fills in around the edges as a cheap super utility, because he can do a little bit of everything that everybody there does. And so I think Davis replaces John Brown and does the Gabe Davis role from last year as well.
Yeah, no, I think it was us.
It was us. That's what I thought.
Emmanuel Sanders, I like Emmanuel Sanders. I think he's really good. I don't want to buy in because that offense is just a little. I just don't know what the volume is going to look like this year. Maybe they run more than expected, and it's just a weird situation. I do think Josh Allen played above expectation last year a little too much. So there a little bit of passing completion regression will come by the maybe 63, 65%, somewhere between that instead of 69 as it was last season. Mm-hmm. So a little things are going to change. It's not, obviously Diggs is going to be great. Josh Allen's going to be fine as a fantasy quarterback, but I mean, maybe they trade for Zach Ertz, who he's dust, but if they trade for him, they're going to use him, which is unfortunate. So I don't want to deal with that. I'm going to another best player available here, Paris Campbell.
Nah.
Talent isn't the issue with Campbell. It's health. Last year he showed up on the field. He was amazing in that first game, and then he got hurt, and it sucks. Or I think he got hurt in the second game. I don't remember.
Yeah, he notched a full game, I think. Yeah. So yeah, it would have been the second game.
Yeah, amazing. But if he gets hurt again, I'll drop him. I don't care. This isn't like a best ball or a draft and hold or anything. But in a format like this, where half PPR again, like his rushing volume will help, his passing, it doesn't matter. He's gonna get the yards. He's explosive. He has a ton. He has tons of speed. So and the offense doesn't really have an alpha if you look at this Indianapolis Colts offense. So, Hilton, obviously the old man in town or whatever.
The elder statesman.
Old man with wider heads. Yeah, I love Michael Pittman, another Trojan from my time. But you look at him and you could say he might not be an alpha. He might be a very good 2, like a Marvin Jones type, which that would be awesome. But Campbell has versatility. He offers high-end scoring in random outings, and that's what you want on your bench, as we discussed. I don't want Jamison Crowder here, who I don't want to ever have to start Jamison Crowder.
No,
he's a floor play in like a PPR best ball league where you can just he'll give you a couple good weeks, and like PPR, it doesn't matter if he has like 7 catches for 55 yards. That's 12.5 points. That's awesome. But in a league like this, half PPR, that's not as awesome. So I'd rather have Campbell, who could go for 17 to 20 on any given week, and if that comes off my bench and slots into my lineup on the week I need him, amazing.
Yeah. No, that's the perfect way to outline it. You have a strategy to your bench, which is good. That's been my big problem is these later rounds. I've been trying to do 2 things at once. I've been letting guys slip by me because I'm looking at, again, John Brown, who just went, I'd rather have than Amon-Ra St. Brown because those Nelson Aguilar targets got to go somewhere, and maybe they'll go to him. Maybe they'll go to Henry Ruggs, but we'll know pretty soon where they'll go. So you got your last pick coming up. Do you have your I'm getting this guy in the last round of every draft kind of guy?
I mean, it depends on the draft. This is a 14-round draft, so I'm taking good players. There are really good players left on this board.
There are.
I mean, look at okay. Okay, well, Jared Cook, he's good. He was good last year. He's the starting tight end for the Los Angeles Chargers. He gets a quarterback upgrade too. He hasn't looked like he's fallen off. Obviously, the hands are an issue, but they've always been an issue. That's nothing new. He's still explosive. Quarterbacks, there are two quarterbacks, Wentz and Jones here. I really like. Obviously, rushing volume there as well. Fairly high. Wentz is in the better offense. The guy we discussed, Emmanuel Sanders, Justin Fields. I could take Justin Fields here. There are just so many options. I think because you can make moves on this kind of league, I'm not going to go with the second quarterback. I'm going to roll out. What's it called? Where is he? Sorry, I was just looking at a guy. Oh, what am I looking at? Oh, yeah, no. I think I'm going to take Jared Cook here because I really like him. I think he could provide a good bit of value. Yeah,
Okay.
second tight end.
All
Yeah,
right. So second tight end
yeah,
behind Mark Andrews.
yeah.
I see. If I was in your spot, this is just my strategy. I would not be taking the second tight end. But in my spot, where I
Mm-hmm.
have Jonnu Smith, I got to take two. I got to take another upside guy here, and he got taken. The Trout man got taken. Oh no, I was going to take Troutman. I'll make fantasy Twitter happy. I'll take Cole Kmet here. Even though in this range there are. Oops, my queue went away because the draft finished. But there were guys that were undrafted there. I saw Gerald Everett as a name that some people like, and yeah, the queue went away, so I can't see who else was in there. Oh no! So draft is over. So let's take a few minutes, and what I like to ask is the first one is which pick do you wish you could have back? Like which pick were you like, oh man, I wish I had not taken that guy there, and then I could have, you know, my draft would have looked a little bit differently.
Uh, I mean, okay, like I said, AJ Dillon. I didn't intend to make that pick if I saw Michael Gallup, but I ended up getting Michael Gallup. Like I would have hated myself in like a real draft if Michael Gallup got away.
Mm-hmm.
But I I really like this draft. Honestly, I'm not really mad at anything. I think again, Galladay Lamb. That's another one where it's a coin flip, and that's just a tiebreaker. Has to break that. That could go either way. Andrews. Okay, you know what? Maybe I shouldn't have taken Andrews considering where I got Cook, and maybe I could have taken another late tight end. So you don't know how every draft works going into it. In those later rounds, you don't know who you're going to get. You don't know which players are going to stack up on 2, 3 quarterbacks, maybe, and like may take a quarterback you expected laid away from you, or 2 or 3 tight ends and take a tight end away from you. So, sometimes I do feel more comfortable taking those positions early. So I don't really have any guys that are specifically regrettable. Only that Dylan Gallup mashup that could have gone really wrong.
Yeah, I am. My big one is, and this is I do things I wouldn't normally do. In this case, it was starting the quarterback run with Lamar Jackson. I would feel a lot better if in that slot I had. I'm trying to see who went after him. ETN. If I'd had ETN instead of Lamar Jackson in that slot, and then I could have slotted in Ryan Tannehill instead of like James Conner or Rojo, then I would feel much
Mm-hmm.
better about my team. So that's the one that I wish I had back, because taking Lamar Jackson early kind of hemmed me into what I wanted to do later, because I'm going to take more shots on running backs and wide receivers than I am on quarterbacks, because I mean we saw how this board played out. There's still plenty of startable guys out there,
Yeah.
but you don't have access to the draft to see who they are. But there's plenty of start.
That stinks.
Yeah, this is our first one we've done on Sleeper, so I guess there is a little bit of a
Oh,
downside to that. So yeah,
it's
so
okay.
awesome. Thanks for joining us. I appreciate you taking the time. You want to go ahead and tell the people where they can find you and follow you, and then I'll get my plugs in, and then we'll let you get on with your day.
Happy to. Hey, no, like I thank you again for having me on,
Oh
Jeff.
yeah,
It's been a blast. Glad we could do the draft. I love mock drafting, so it doesn't really
it's
matter.
fun. Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Happy to do this any day. Yeah. So again, at Rotosurgeon on Twitter, it's spelled how it sounds, Rotosurgeon.
Hmm.
It's a play on the last name Mahserejian, but I pronounce it My Surgeon to anglicize it. It's fun, but whatever. Make sure to go to Rotoball or check out for all of your fantasy needs, whether it be football, baseball, basketball, hockey, golf, MMA. Doesn't matter if you want it. We got it over at rotoballer.com. Check out my show, The Operating Room, on Apple Podcasts and Spotify and wherever podcasts are available. Listen, rate, review. I'd really appreciate that. And yeah, the game day as well. That's a newer site that I'm working on, and I do a little bit of betting and like long-term like futures bets, and then some fantasy work there as well. So thegameday.com, check them out. There's again the major sports, NFL, MLB, NBA there. Yeah, but Jeff, again, thank you, man,
Yeah.
and I'm glad we got to chat.
Yeah, no, I just want to say Kev is a great follow. He's a great guy to chat with on Twitter. He'll give it. He's not one of those people who like gives a take, and if you push back, he's like, well, obviously I'm correct. Like he'll chat through takes with you, which is how you know somebody's like has really thought through their take. So he's a smart guy, and like he said, baseball, basketball, and football. I love checking out Kev's takes on baseball. So thanks for joining us again. Next time we will be back on Wednesday, 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern. Zachy at Zachy NFL is going to talk our Dynasty startup, where he traded 14 times in our Dynasty startup. So we're going to talk through all of his trades to give people some ideas on how to move around in their draft, because that's the most trades I've seen in a draft. It was crazy. So
yeah, that's who does that 14 times.
14 times.
Who was the time of day?
I barely had time to look at the trade offers he sent me.
Oh my God.
All right, so follow him on Rotor Surgeon. He's got all his Kev's got all his where to go in his bio there. And so we'll be back on Wednesday. Please follow. If you follow, subscribe. If you got Amazon Prime, you get a free subscription every month to Twitch Prime, and we'd love if you sent that our way. So again, for Kev, this is Jeff. Thanks for watching, and have a great day.